We are blessed to live in an era where entertainment is widely available and abundant. But with this enormous blessing comes an enormous curse. There is no conceivable way one can enjoy all of the great video games, movies, and TV shows that are on the market. So, how does the average consumer know which pieces of entertainment to spend their hard-earned money on, and give their limited time to? It seems to me, and most industry analysts, that consumers solve this issue by gravitating to recognizable intellectual property that has consistently satiated their need for entertainment, instead of spending their already limited time researching alternative forms of media. Though many people pine for more original and boundary-pushing games, the greater number of average consumers inadvertently and unintentionally incentivize the market to prioritize recognizable IP. For this reason, any company that currently owns a recognizable IP and does not make use of it are very likely to die off. This is why a company like Konami isn't sitting on their famous IP, even though we all thought they would for the longest time. We all know that Konami suck a copious amount of camel ass, but they're not stupid enough to ignore that IP is king in the modern era. In fact, they're wise enough to not only bring back Silent Hill, the most recognizable horror game IP outside of Resident Evil, they are publishing multiple Silent Hill games plus helping develop a new movie. However, on a purely surface level, it might seem strange to people that Konami would prioritize a series like Silent Hill over another franchise that they own, which is 5 to 6 times more popular, at least in terms of sales. I am of course talking about my all-time favorite entertainment franchise, Metal Gear Solid. Outside of the rumors regarding this franchise's revival, which we will talk about in a moment, we can deduce purely on the basis of reason that Metal Gear Solid will return in some capacity. But the reason why it wasn't prioritized over Silent Hill might only be obvious to hardcore fans who know about the behind-the-scenes drama. The franchise's creator, Hideo Kojima, is as synonymous with Metal Gear's identity as wheat is to bread. However, he is no longer working at Konami due to a fallout, which was... how do I describe it? Imagine the Eclipse from Berserk, but Griffith is Konami, Kojima is Guts, and Casca is the Metal Gear franchise. If you don't get that reference, trust me, it's probably best that you don't. Anyways, to put it simply, Konami holds the rights to publish and develop Metal Gear games, even though that series is Kojima's baby. Now, that relationship is forever severed. Though Konami will continue the franchise without Kojima, even they realize that doing so without Kojima at the helm is a lofty proposition, because everything about these games, from its gameplay design to its story, is intrinsically tied to him. On top of that, the fallout between Konami and Kojima was so public, with so many people siding with Kojima, that I imagine Konami might be wary about how many copies a new Metal Gear game would sell. Maybe people won't buy it out of loyalty to him. So, how does one gauge interest in the franchise in the present day while also being cost-effective? Well, that's easy. Remake. Instead of potentially wasting a bunch of money on Metal Gear Solid 6 right away, which likely won't end up being as good as the previous mainline games and fans might be reluctant to buy it, why not give one of the older games a graphical upgrade, and then see how it sells? And of course, the current rumors suggest that the one they are choosing to remake is the most popular and arguably the best one, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. There are rumors surrounding a Metal Gear Solid 1 remake, and I will discuss those too in a moment, but those seem less credible, so I'm gonna start with 3. Last week, Xbox Era podcast host, Special Nick, I think I'm pronouncing that right, spoke about a source he has who stated that they think a Metal Gear Solid 3 remake is on the horizon. It will be released in 2024 and it will be exclusive to PlayStation, at least for a limited time. This rumor has not been verified, but validated by other gaming journalists, particularly Jez from Windows Central, and most notably Andy Robinson from Video Games Chronicle. He stated back in 2021 that Konami was looking to revive all of their famous gaming IP, and as we all know, this report is now confirmed to be partially true. via the Silent Hill reveal last October. In that report, it was stated a game developer company known as Virtuos would be handling the project. They are responsible for the Switch ports of Dark Souls Remastered, The Outer Worlds, and the BioShock collection, as well as contributing art and content to blockbusters such as Battlefield 1, Uncharted 4, and Horizon Zero Dawn. The article also suggests that re-releases of the old Metal Gear games would be coming as well, that's good. And finally, Robinson suggested recently via Twitter that the MGS3 remake was going to be announced during an E3 conference. But of course, E3 2023 isn't happening anymore, and good luck getting Kojima's cupbearer, Jeff Keighley, to showcase it during the Summer Game Fest. So these rumors, plus the argument that I put forward regarding the importance of IP, lead me to believe that an official announcement regarding an MGS3 remake is imminent. As the objectively biggest Metal Gear fan on the planet, I can say that of all the plausible scenarios in which Metal Gear makes a return, this one makes the most sense and is the least controversial. First, starting with a remake of 3 instead of 1 is fine. 3 takes place right at the beginning of the Metal Gear timeline and doesn't require that much prior knowledge of MGS 1 and 2 to understand everything that is going on. Yes, people who play MGS3 Remake that are newcomers to the franchise will miss out on details like how the Philosophers evolved into the Patriots, or Grannon's connection to Huey and Hal Emmerich and the development of the first Metal Gear models, but it's really not that big a deal. Most of us played MGS1 without playing Metal Gear 1 and 2, and we got by while missing out on story details from those games, like the stuff involving Big Boss and Gray Fox. The second reason this makes the most sense is that it's the most cost-effective and least intrusive way to bring back the franchise. All Konami and allegedly Virtuos have to do is give this game the same treatment that Shadow of the Colossus or Crash Bandicoot or Spyro the Dragon got. Just give it a graphical upgrade, maybe some enhanced audio and controls, and some quality of life changes, which better include an auto-camouflage system like we had in MGS4. Or at least the option. Seriously, going into the menu to change your camo sucks. And even Kojima knew it sucks, which is why he got rid of it in 4. If they do all of this, I might be inclined to buy it, because like I said, Konami is not letting go of the IP. They just aren't. And don't worry guys, if they do some like Metal Gear Survive level BS, they're not gonna get my money. But if they do something on par with the quality of the other remakes I mentioned, then I might. But despite the fact that this does make the most sense from a business, creative, and PR standpoint, there is one major problem with doing an MGS3 remake that nobody seems to be talking about, and that is this. Though I just said that it's fine from a storytelling standpoint to start with 3 instead of 1, doing so presents a very unique challenge from a gameplay standpoint. Typically, in the gaming industry, when you do a sequel, it is supposed to be an improvement from the previous game. To follow up MGS3 with MGS1 is a downgrade in every possible form with the exception of maybe story, but that's the most subjective thing here. By the way, I say this as somebody who likes Metal Gear Solid 1 more than 3, but even I have to admit that MGS1 is at least slightly below MGS3 in terms of combat, campaign length, immersion, and maybe boss battles. Maybe. With this in mind, how do you fix the issue? Do you just remake the Twin Snakes version of MGS1 where you have MGS2's combat? Well, I hope not. While the Twin Snakes improved OG MGS1's combat, there were a lot of other changes in that game that fans like myself did not like. The voice acting was very poor compared to the masterful acting in the PS1 version. The combat, though improved in Twin Snakes, did make the game very easy on normal and hard. And of course, they turned Snake into Neo. So if you're starting with MGS3, how do you go to MGS1 after that and give it at least equal value? That's the biggest problem with the MGS3 remake. Honestly guys, I don't know what the answer is. In my mind, there's really only two options, and both of them carry an unconscionably heavy amount of risk. One of the options is to just give the game MGS3's combat and camera while redoing all the cutscenes to fit the PS1 version's more dramatic feel. And then Konami should charge at least $10 less if they can't make it equivalent in overall value to MGS3. The other option I've heard some people discuss is instead of giving MGS1 the light remake treatment, like with the aforementioned Shadow of the Colossus, go full remake, like Final Fantasy VII or Resident Evil 2 and 3. Now this is where the other, less credible rumors come in. We've been hearing rumors for a while now that Bluepoint, the people responsible for the Shadow of the Colossus remake, would be at the helm. But there's a lot of evidence suggesting that those rumors aren't true. Evidence pointing to their next game not even being a remake. That's not to say that an MGS1 remake isn't in development, it's just questionable whether or not it's Bluepoint. Honestly, if I were to entrust the development of an MGS1 remake to a gaming studio, Bluepoint would be it. But even with them, I struggle to believe that they would do it well. First of all, how would you change the original game in a way that pleased as many people as possible, while also making it as long, immersive, and consistent as MGS3? Do you add side quests? Do you play as Grey Fox and Meryl at points? And if you add these things, how do you make their gameplay and their story as entertaining and as relevant as the original gameplay and story was? More importantly, how do you keep the same brisk pace that the original game had while adding these new things in? How do you know that if you add these things in that they won't feel artificial or tedious, like the whole warming and cooling at the PAL key mission at the end of MGS1? And that's another thing too, they need to cut that whole PAL key bullshit out of there if they do an MGS1 remake. They just do. I don't know how, but they just do. Now, as far as extending the game via gameplay, I don't know, maybe they do something to draw out the length of the game by changing how you move and how you fight. Maybe you could reacquaint the series with its stealth roots by making it easier to be caught and killed. But even then, if you do that, that's going to piss some people off, because if you emphasize the importance of stealth, you risk taking away people's ability to experiment with their playstyle. See, the great thing about MGS games is that while they encourage stealth, you can play it with all guns blazing and enjoy it just as much. Or you can be stealthy and aggressive and enjoy it just as much. Anyways, guys, I have thought about this question for a long time, and I just don't know the answer. And I know it's easy to just say, well, just don't make it, but that's just wishful thinking. If MGS3 Remake sells well, MGS1 Remake is inevitable, and I think to some degree, it's up to us to be clear about what we want. If we don't, there is an increased chance that Konami will further tarnish our beloved series, and I won't let it go down even further without a fight. So, the question is for you guys. How do you think a Metal Gear Solid 1 remake should be handled? Should they do a light remake, a full remake, or something different? I'd love to hear your ideas in the comments section below. And guys, please keep it civil. We're all Metal Gear fans here. Until my next video, stay safe and stay yellow.